Hello, I'm Isa Silver, and I'm here to answer a question, explain a personal experience. The question had to do with my experience healing my gut and my use of PHS, or primary health system eating. That comes from the human design system, and it's one of the wacky sounding parts of the human design system, but yet I've never talked to anyone for whom it didn't work, and sometimes immediately work. And I can't explain it otherwise either, because I've been through so many gut related things in my life. And so let's see if I can summarize some of that. So to explain my PHS eating, what I do now is I just eat when there's not a lot of loud noise. I eat in quiet areas. I generally don't eat in restaurants or cafes, but sometimes I do with earplugs and headphones. And I really can eat anything. And the quality doesn't matter that much. Before PHS, I was a really, organic, advanced, balanced eater. I had high quality food all my life. And now, and I mean the right amount of fiber and the right this and that and everything. Okay, so now I know I can live on pancakes, like cheap pancakes. I can not eat vegetables for weeks at a time, and my skin looks just the same, and my digestion can be just the same. And it's all about eating with a low volume around me. So how is that even possible? I am not a PHS expert at all. I just have my experience. There are people who are trained in it, and talk to them. But I went from having a gluten allergy and all kinds of gut dysbiosis, to being able to eat anything, anytime, and not eat, because that's part of my PHS, is I have a right brain. I don't need to eat as much as other people. And not eating is really nice for me. Really nice. Yeah. I'm just thinking about, I think I do a lot of emotional eating lately. So whatever. But let me be a little chronological about my story. I'm going to try that. So I'm going to start now. It's 2022. And I first started my PHS eating in October of 2018. And I really haven't had more than a few meals in a loud area since then. So it's been consistent. Backwards from there, in 2017, I did pay for human design kind of PHS kind of reading, but it wasn't by a real PHS trained person. So I really didn't get the information maybe that I needed, or maybe it just wasn't time for me to do it, because I was told about low sound eating in 2017 by a professional, but not a certified, and it just didn't stick. In 2018, it really stuck, and the thing that had happened was I had listened to a lecture about my variable. I have a right brain and 3 parts left, and when I heard that from Raw, and he talked about metabolism problems for people like me, I don't know, it just clicked, right? Go backwards from there. In 2016, spring of 2016 was when I met Human Design, and I was on a gut healing path then. I'll come back to that. Go backwards from there, 2015, when I left the United States. I didn't know how effed up my guts were. They evacuated every day, but it wasn't well formed. It didn't smell okay. And by the way, my shit doesn't stink. Not on any good day. The only time it stinks is if I have alcohol. But otherwise, it doesn't. So call me arrogant, it's just a fact. If your poop stinks, there's something wrong. Okay, so 2016 was when I met the GAPS diet and started the gut healing process. 2015, it was messed up, but I didn't know I needed to do anything about it. 2011 is when I went vegan. And when that happened, my guts got a lot better. And I thought that was the solution, was being vegan. And I was, a quart of green smoothie every day. And I had a very healthy diet. I had a box of organic vegetables every week. But I thought that being vegan was the solution at the time. It sounded so, the idea of being vegan is so beautiful. You're not harming any animals. It's like, I'm so peaceful in my body because there's no violence going into my body. Well, I believed in that. And I believed in it with my mind. And my goal at the time was to get pregnant. So I was going to be the most pure body possible. And so veganism seemed like it. Now, I'm on the other end of that spectrum. There was no way for me to heal my guts without animals supporting me. And I just don't mentally worry about it anymore. I ate pork yesterday. It came from a big box store. Those pigs didn't live nice lives. But when it went into my body quietly yesterday, it was good. So things that I could have never imagined were true, like I could peaceably eat industrial raised pork and that it would feel good in my body and, things would perform well with. I've been through a lot of shatterings of my mental understanding of what food is and what it does to my body and my brain. So now I'm going to try to go back in time and come forward to where I am. So in the spring of 2016, I was living in Costa Rica and I had left the United States. I didn't know what the fuck was going to happen and I had no idea I was going to end up in Costa Rica, but I did, in this valley full of waterfalls by the sea. And when I first got there, it was a big deal to me that I had the chance to be raw vegan. Not just vegan, but raw vegan, because you're in Costa Rica and there's coconuts and bananas, right? And so I was on this farm that was only vegan, and then I was in my house, and you could buy vegan everything from the hippies and la la la. I remember being horrified by the amount of meat eaten at a Christmas party in 2015. That's where my mental mind was. I remember being with this man who was later someone I was close with, and I remember going, "Ooh, you're so like meaty, carnal." Okay, so spring, I think it was March 2016, I had a complete gut failure event. A parasite that had gone around the community. A lot of people at this festival had gotten sick, like puking and diarrhea, and I got it even though I didn't go to the festival. And I was at the toilet on the ground, like couldn't leave the bathroom for 24 hours. And I was lucky that a beautiful projector brought me coconut water. And beautiful projector, she told me about this guy who does body work and knows about gut stuff. So I hired him to work on my body and tell me about healing my gut. And when I mean dysbiosis, I mean food didn't digest coming out and it was all pain. Let me go backwards a little bit even further. We'll come back to 2016 in a minute. The feeling that I had between my belly button and my pubic bone for most of my life was discomfort. It was bloating and discomfort. I would look in the mirror and I would see this kind of belly, and it wasn't a huge belly, but it was this kind of pokey out belly. And I remember I was always, that's not me. That's not mine. There's something wrong there. The only times that my guts felt good were when I used laxatives or did enemas or fasting. So if it was empty, it felt okay. So fast forward back to 2016, and there's a 6'2" ego manifester who is giving me advice about healing my gut. And he turns me on to a gut rebuilding protocol called the GAPS diet. It stands for Gut and Psychology Syndrome. That was developed by a doctor named Natasha Campbell McBride. And she didn't develop it for people like me who just fucked up their guts with veganism and maybe alcohol. And, oh, wait a minute, all the birth control and all the antibiotics and all this bullshit. Anyway, the gut system, it gets messed up by everything modern. So anyway, Dr. McBride, she has a clinic and she has cured children of autism, apparently. And it's a very detailed diet in the sense of you start with bone broth. Bone broth. If you know it, you know it. If you don't know it, you can't believe it. There's no way to explain bone broth other than to take it and see what your body says. But it's a medicine. Let's say that. For sure it's a medicine. So it's the first layer of rebuilding a gut. Now, what are we talking about when we talk about gut dysbiosis? What's happening between the stomach and the anus is a completely different ecosystem. It is not human. It is hundreds, definitely tens of kinds of bacteria, probiotic we'd call them, and they digest things that humans can't. Because guess what? Humans don't have guts that actually digest plants the way that deer and cows and those animals do. We can only digest plants, the, what do you call it, the fiber, the cellulose, carbohydrates. We can only digest that if there are other creatures living in our guts that'll do it for us. I could say so much more about that. I gotta summarize this more. Okay, so I had my time with green smoothies. I can't even sip a green smoothie now. Back when I used to think I had to eat like a monkey, but I'm not. I'm not a monkey. So I couldn't digest anything. So bone broth doesn't need to be digested. It will deliver nutrients directly into your gut that your body can absorb without it being broken down. It's in a bioavailable form, you could say. And the way that diet works is you start with bone broth and then you add back one at a time very simple things that the gut is able to digest even when it's lacking the carbohydrate digesting probiotics. And the first thing you got to do is now I'm talking from Dr. McBride's explanations, but I know this worked for me because in those years before I left the States, I had a gluten allergy that was so clear. I would not eat gluten for like months, and then I would eat a scone at the coffee shop, and the next day I would have a patch of eczema under my eye, and I would have pain in my wrists from one scone. And I know people would say, oh, gluten allergy, people make that shit up, but I felt it. It was so clear. It was so clear I had a gluten allergy. And back when I had been tested and my T cell count was like off the roof, like way, and I remember crying a lot. My body's attacking itself, you know? It turns out my living situation, who I was living with, there was a lot of conflict, there was a lot of stress, and on the outside I looked very successful, I wasn't fat, I looked good, I was athletic, but my body was attacking itself all the time. And I didn't know what to do about it then. I know now my body's not attacking itself because I don't have hives and I don't have allergic reactions to gluten. I can eat whatever the heck I want, including bread and more bread. It just gets kind of it just kind of gets puffy, but okay. So the GAPS diet, super carbohydrate controlled, and the point is to seal the gut lining. Because when the gut lining is porous, then stuff can seep out through the gut lining into the bloodstream directly that is not digested. It's in a form that is not recognizable to the body. So, for example, Well, that's how allergies work. That's the T cell count issue. When your gut lining is holy, has holes in it, then the food, the undigested food that's going into the bloodstream, is attacked by the T cells because it's a foreign invader. It's not food to it. So with the GAPS diet, sealed the gut lining, going step by step through the diet. And really, you can't mess it up. I mean, you can't skip any steps. I remember I was like 4 weeks into it and basically no carbohydrates, because even a piece of lettuce felt painful on the lining of my gut. Maybe I'll remember to come back and talk about touch cognition and the lining of my gut. But so it was bone broth, it was eggs, and then it was fermented fish, and then it was these things that sound so bizarre, the GAPS diet, but they're actually really traditional foods. Humans ate like this, you know, before refrigeration. Basically, before refrigeration, everyone's guts were okay because we had this very diverse culture in our guts that was able to eat up everything we ate. And yeah, modern systems have changed the human gut contents. I'm already at 16 minutes. Okay, I'm going to try to get through this. So fast forward, I am able to eventually eat vegetables and meat, and I basically eat vegetables and meat for a couple years. I was in Europe when I got the reading that said low sound, and at that time I remember I was eating like gluten-free bread, but not regular bread. I went to Asia to go to school, and I didn't eat rice living in Thailand because the carbohydrates messed up my gut so much, and it messed me up mentally. I would, like, a banana, a bowl of rice, I could feel the chemical change from it. By the way, did I mention I can eat anything now as long as it's quiet? So fast forward to 2018, I have a trippy ass summer. Stunning things happened, and I could only say, holy heck, this has got to have to do with this human design thing. It's got to have to do with me being a splenic manifester, but I don't really know very much what that means. Maybe I should study now. So I that's when I started studying human design in 2018. And I listened to the lecture for my variable, and that's the best money I ever spent at Jovian, by the way, like impact per dollar, my variable reading, because that's what got me into my PHS eating. And so my PHS eating, low sound, I have a color 5, I have a touch tone 6 cognition. And basically what that meant as far as changing my life was that I stopped eating in public places. And so that's not really that fun. You know, I like going out for croissant. I loved going out for calamari and wine. Mexico has great cheap food, and it's all in loud areas, right? Like, Mexico's not a quiet culture. So it wasn't that fun. I called it my isolating diet because all of a sudden I wasn't part of the culture. But guess what? I also wasn't being conditioned by that culture. And food, even on day 1 of living your design, from an IHDS slide, you'll be told that food is a conditioning force. And boy, is it. Oh, look, I have a little change in the light. Let's see. Well, hopefully that's okay. So, since 2018, I'm not eating anywhere that has much noise going on if I don't have earplugs and headphones. And then for a lot of that, I just don't go anywhere. I just only eat at home, and or, you know, somewhere quiet. And when it's loud, I don't want to eat. I have no food rules anymore except for the low sound eating. Sometimes the weirdest garbagey things go into my mouth, but Like I could eat, like literally, like I can eat a Twinkie or one of those cheap things from the gas station counter. And if I eat it in quiet, I like, ooh, ooh, I can enjoy it and nothing changes what's going on in my guts. And there's peace there. I mean, I'm touching it right now and it's always a little bigger than I want it to be, my belly, but it's peaceful there. There's no sense of like there's something wrong with me coming from my guts, and there was, because I don't even know how this works exactly, but this is why I talked to a PHS expert. But basically, the few times I've eaten loud food, like once at a party and a few other times, I could feel pain as if like some painful thing, like some bad object was moving through my gut lining. Touch cognition. My theory is that, and I don't think I made this up, but I think I have plenty of evidence to say that touch cognition, touching through the skin, okay, those skin cells in my gut lining, those cells on the edge of those little cilia in the gut, they are sensitive, I believe, because I can feel that loud food. And the test for me has been twice. I've taken laxatives to like get the loud food out, and then it was quiet. So what else can I say? My conclusion, based on my experience now, is that every mouthful of non-PHS food that is eaten is a conditioning force moving through the body. The guts are like 26 feet long or something if you laid them out. And I've read a statistic that said something like the surface area of inside the guts, where all the cilia, all the little things are, that's as big as a tennis court. But let's just pretend it's as big as a living room. Every like molecule interaction between the gut lining and that foreign food, we'll call it, that non-PHS food, is conditioning you from the inside. That's how I'm seeing that now. And what to say, I don't know what PHS could possibly say about the gut biome. And I mean, it's a really interesting topic. I mean, I haven't talked about that right yet, but look at how long the video is already. But there's lots of other people that are experts on this. But there's really a complete ecosystem, like inside of a forest, of so many different types of bacteria. And there's parasites and other things too. And maybe the parasites are bad, or maybe there's okay parasites. I'm not sure, but that's an issue. I'll mention too, I've been through major gut cleansing before PHS. Now, since PHS, I don't think I've done more than a few enemas and a few fasts that lasted like 72 hours, maybe a little bit longer, maybe a little bit less. But going backwards in time, 2014, I didn't eat for 2 weeks. I went to a clinic to do this, to not eat for 2 weeks and to do it correctly. And enemas every day and colonics 3 times in 14 days. And there was still shit coming out of my guts on day 10 of no eating. So that and a bunch of other things, I know that things stay in your guts for a long time if you don't remove them. And maybe it's a particular issue with low sound eating or what, I don't know, but all I can imagine is that all that stuff that stays in the guts forever, and literally forever. I mean, there are things that, like, people eat crayons when they're kids and it comes out their butt when they're cleansing at age 50. I know those stories. So I've just got to imagine that all this non-PHS food is this constant force in the gut and takes people off track, because it's conditioning. Like sleeping with somebody is conditioning. Like anything having to do with anybody is conditioning. But is it the correct conditioning? Is it healthy conditioning? I have shared my PHS experience with some other people, and I've had a manifestor coming to mind, tell me that her poop changed within like 24 hours, like immediately. She changed her eating style and things changed. So, is that enough information to answer that question? I would love for this video to start conversations about the meeting of the gut biome and PHS and things like this. This is for the parents who are feeding their children according to their PHS. I can't imagine a single better thing that a parent could do than let their children eat according to their eating style. When I've heard Ra talk about the low sound child that is sitting at the table and trying to eat, I was always the last person at the table eating. And I realize now is because I couldn't eat while everyone was talking. And I was often talking because the adults were talking to me. So let that calm child do whatever she wants to, you know, turn on that music for the loud sound boy, whatever it takes. Let your child differentiate. Because I didn't get to in that situation. Now it turns out my instinct was in college to not go in the dorms and live on my own and eat in quiet. So lucky me. But okay, my gratitude to the parents who are sharing PHS, and hey, all the joyful impact I can give to every one of you adults who might try your PHS now. If you need more information, there are experts on it. If you'd like some support and empowerment from me, I'd be glad to share that with you. Namaste, amigos.